listening to the Savvy Musician Show with Leah McHenry, and this is your secret weapon for success in the new music industry.
Well, hello and welcome once again to the Savvy Musician Show. This is CJ Ortiz. I am the branding and mindset coach here at the Savvy Musician Academy, and grateful to serve alongside and be able to talk to, in this podcast, the lovely Leah McHenry. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Looking forward to this episode.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. Now, depending upon where you are in your knowledge of online musician, this may or may not make sense to you, but for those who are working at it, and particularly the students of the Savvy Musician Academy, this is something that is a point of confusion because terminology plays a role. We're going to be talking about micro-niche versus branding, and it's an important thing because for those of you who really understand the success that Leah has experienced, you have heard her talk about both of them, and you might be wondering, well, which is it? Is it micro-niche? Is it brand? Are they the same thing? What do I need to place an emphasis on? And she's one of the best examples that I've ever seen of how these two things work together. And I think you're really, really going to have some coins drop during this particular episode. You're going to better understand this. And so I'm excited for each one of our listeners. Leah would like to start with a student spotlight. And I love when you share these. And she sends these to me to be able to share with you guys. And this one's pretty powerful. This one's from Chad, and this is one of our elite students, and he says, #win. I'm really excited about the revamp to our website, and I'm even more excited to get feedback on it, so we encourage students to do that in the group, to get feedback. Mm-hmm. He says, things that I have changed. He said, I gave to my whole website a complete overhaul to fall in line with the high conversion theme or principles. Now, that's something that Leah teaches. In other words, designing a site to be high converting. And you can do that. There are principles to this. Mm-hmm. He says, I was able to give the site a more uniform look based on my branding board and based on the feedback I've gotten in the past. I also upped the prices in my current shop. This has brought my LCV. What is that?
Actually, I'm not sure what LCV is. LTV would be like a lifetime value. I think he's talking about his average order or something like that.
So he says, this has brought my LCV from 107 to 125 without adding any additional items. So that would be what the potential of a particular customer is for a year, I would imagine. Right?
Yeah. So it's probably an LTV.
Yeah. So he was able to raise that based on, without adding any additional items. And so, again, these are all some of the techniques and things which we can't go into today, but these are the techniques and things you teach in that elite group. Very, very amazing stuff. But he's thinking through the impression that he's giving his customer, his fan, as you like to call it, the customer journey, because they're coming to a site for the first time. And so you do something with the students that you call the 5-second test. Mm-hmm. And, to see what the impression is that somebody gets within 5 seconds. Where do their eyes go? You get them in, where do you put certain items on the page? All of these things, being always cognizant of the impression that you're leaving on your customer. And that does take us into the branding. That does take us into this whole aspect of who you're targeting based on who you are as an artist, etc. So let's start from the beginning so we can make it really simple for everybody, Leah. First of all, define for the listener what is a micro niche or niche.
Yeah, I know. Depending on where you live in the world, you might call it niche or niche. Doesn't really matter. Basically, I don't even know where I originally learned about niches. Somewhere in my studies of marketing, I came across this idea of niche or niche marketing and how powerful it is and how businesses were able to succeed so much more. Instead of trying to appeal to everybody, they just appeal to a certain small demographic, and how becoming a specialist instead of a generalist would increase their sales and their profitability and their overall revenue like crazy. So I started applying that in my music and going, hey, instead of me trying to appeal to the world and trying to be famous around the world with my music, why don't I just stop trying to do that and just get really good at what I'm really good at and try to appeal to a smaller group of people who are probably diehard fans. And so that introduced me to the whole concept of niching down. And it also, what's amazing about that is it really takes the pressure off of you for when you look at what you're trying to accomplish in your lifetime. So I am not concerned about being world famous. It always makes me laugh. Like we've talked about this in the past when people see our ads and they say, well, Leah, I've never heard of you. And I'm always saying, yeah, of course you haven't, because you're probably not a fan of Celtic fantasy metal, are you? Otherwise, why would you have heard of me? You're not in my target market. You're not seeing my ads. I only target people who like Celtic fantasy metal, and I know all their interests in stuff. If you're into country music, yeah, you won't have heard of me. This is the internet age. I don't need to be a household name to be successful. And until people understand that, they don't get it. So the whole concept of a micro niche is just really going deeper into that niche. Now, I see people all the time get really caught up in this, and we have a little process, a little system for how you can discover yours. And actually, we have a PDF download we'll put in the show notes for you to work through this yourself. And the basics, the way it works is really there's an umbrella genre, which we call like just a big main category. So it's like rock, pop, country, blues, like very general. Okay. It's the stuff that on iTunes or Amazon, they kind of have these big categories. Below that, there's a subgenre. So, within say the rock category, there's probably hundreds of, well, maybe dozens of subgenres of rock, alt rock, blues rock, country rock. There's all of that. Now below that,
heavy metal's the same.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Heavy metal is like bazillions of these little niches. And then, so umbrella genre, then there's a subgenre. Then I would say the third level is your niche. This is like where we're getting a little more granular here. Like it's a smaller group of people. And that's the whole point. It's a smaller group of people. So at this point, let's say you're in the rock genre, it could be like folk rock at that point. Folk rock, or, I'm not always, I don't know all the genres out there. So it's just an example. And then below that, if there's room, if it even makes sense, you could get into a micro niche. And this is where I see people get caught up all the time. Mine, guys, is right now it's Celtic fantasy metal. My umbrella genre is metal. Subgenre for me is symphonic metal. Niche is like female fronted symphonic metal, because that's like a thing. And then, or like folk metal kind of a thing. And then my niche is like Celtic fantasy metal. Now, there's so much I could say about this, but one thing I will say out of the gate is like, if you just get the first three, you're good for so many things. And I don't want people obsessing or getting hung up or stuck the fact that they don't know what their micro niche is. This is not meant to cause you stress. All that exercise is meant to do is to help you just get a little more clear on your identity as an artist, and for targeting purposes, so you can identify who your super fans are. And if it happens to be language they're already using, you can use it in your social media and in your advertising and stuff. And that's what I do. So actually, some of the words I'm using in my micro niche are words that my fans already told me. And so that gave me freedom to kind of use it back to them, kind of repeat it back to them, the thing they were already saying to me. And so that ended up becoming a powerful thing. But that doesn't always work for every artist in every case, in every scenario. So listen, if you get your umbrella genre, your subgenre, and your niche, you are already miles ahead. You're going to be really already so much more clear than many other artists out there. So let's start with that.
Yeah, and I think that's that's been a huge key to your success, is niching down. And like you said, and I as you were talking, I stopped to write that down. I don't need to be a household name to be successful.
Yep.
I mean, if that's such a great summary statement of your entire approach. And it makes the point. It makes the point that, a household name, we know all sorts of household names, and we don't pay any attention to who those household names. We just know them because everybody says them. That's the definition of a household name. But we're interested in creating successful music businesses. And so when it comes to creating a successful music business, it's not about ego. It's not about everybody knowing you. It's about the right people knowing you. It's about having, like what you say, super fans, having people that you're able to go directly to who like your specific style of music. And granted, even if you're an innovative player, or maybe you believe you're more innovative than you think you are,
yeah,
still, everybody likes to think that, right? They're completely original. But I guarantee you there are genres and niches that you can fit in and that you're going to be able to identify with people who would absolutely love your music. And so that's the first thing, is understanding, who you are musically. Now, this is still not the brand, though. Mm-hmm. And this is where people, get their wires crossed. And so when I first came into Leah's group, her elite group, as a coach, that was the first thing I saw, was people were struggling with getting results. And so because they were learning so much in-depth information about the tools that Leah uses and the technology and some of the ad copywriting techniques and all this new software and emails and opt-ins and page, all this stuff, they kept thinking that it was something there that they were missing when there was a problem at the outset. And that problem was they didn't understand that difference, A, between micro niche and branding, but then B, branding was suffering because they were so focused on the micro niche. And so when I go to their page, I would see their artist name, and then right below would be this very descriptive, very long, very descriptive statement, which is great for you to have hanging next to your computer or your keyboard to remind you of what you're targeting. But it's not necessarily going to be the thing that people remember you for. It's not necessarily going to be your strongest selling point. It's not going to necessarily be what you want to create as that brand. So that was a huge eye-opener for people once you and I started to talk about these things more in the group. We felt so strongly about it that Leah asked that I do a branding boot camp, which is now a part of the actual curriculum.
We have it in the modules now. So now, since we've added that, since you did the workshop, and then since we've added that, people have had so many more breakthroughs and just getting results. I'm so glad we did that. I'm so glad we had you.
Yeah. For people to, I think, to get those it's like a two-edged sword, and one edge of the sword is the micro niche, and then the other edge of the sword is the branding, because you have to know who you're targeting.
Yeah.
And you can't target with a brand. You don't know who you're targeting. You don't.
Right.
You got to know your niche. You got to know comparable artists and the culture and all of that to be able to put into some of these powerful features in Facebook's ad manager in order to run your ads. That's where the niche is going to really, really help you targeting those audiences. But then what you become to those people, that's a whole different thing. And of course, you're such an easy one, Leah, to use as an example. And, I have a whole thing in that branding boot camp just focused on you, because it's just, there's so many teachable lessons from your particular testimony. But I remember because I was there when she first started this, and she sent me her first album. And I remember saying to myself, because I had a good friend of mine who I did a lot of work with, and he's a total musician and totally knows what I'm into. And so I shared it with him, and we were talking about it. And I said, you know what she sounds like? Because at the time, it was odd, Leah. It was very odd, because at that time, prior to me hearing your music, something had gotten me into a lot of the Windham Hill ambient music stuff. And so I heard a lot of Enya during all of that, the artist Enya. And then I heard your your first album. And I said, dude, you know what she is? She's a heavy metal version of Enya, you know? And so it was just, so in other words, now if I was to share one of your CDs with somebody, I would simply tell them, well, what's she like? Well, she's like a heavy metal Enya. And they'd be like, oh, well, I know exactly what that must sound like. You know, they can picture it. In other words, it's going to have a whole lot more guitar. It's going to have, you know, there's going to be more in the rhythm section and things like that, and the themes will be.
But they already know it's not going to have aggressive vocals.
Yeah, they know that. They know it's not going to be country, right?
Yeah.
So that's really, really cool. So when she goes out into that now, she becomes literally a personage to people. She becomes now this, and I love it because if you look at her album covers, and I would challenge you to do that if you've got one close by you, and if not, go to her Instagram page or her webpage and take a look at the album covers. You're going to see exactly what I mean here. And this is really, really powerful. I almost want to charge people for this right now, Leah. But Leah, one of the real secrets to what she does is, and this is so creative, her culture, the Celtic fantasy metal, you can see that somebody who listens to her music may be very interested in a show like Game of Thrones. And when you get into that fantasy element in storytelling and myths and lore and legend, there is no need for feminism there because women are exalted in these stories. Women are heroes in these stories, whether it's you're watching something like The Hobbit or anything else. Women are exalted figurines in a lot of these stories. The concept of the queen, the princess, the warrior type thing. All of these are, they are archetypes, right, within these stories. And so when you look at Leah's album covers, she's got one called Kings and Queens. That's what you literally see. It's as if you're looking at, a promotional poster for something like a character from Game of Thrones. You could literally pass for a character on Game of Thrones in a sense. So for those who are listening to that music, she fits an archetype that they understand very, very well. So now we're beyond just a particular musical style. We're beyond a niche now. Now we're into something that is much, much deeper, much, much more psychological, that plays to the reasons why they listen to that music, the reasons why they love that music. It's a part of, if somebody's really into the Game of Thrones and they read Tolkien and they read all this fantasy type literature, they're probably not listening to pop country. Right?
Yeah.
They're going to be listening to music that's going to be germane to what their interests are. So that's the difference. And that's what you have to understand, is that now she becomes this figure. She becomes this archetype, and her music fills that role. But it's targeted to, this is not Coca-Cola branding. This is not, Coke is the real thing. You know what I mean? No, this is so targeted to her micro niche. So the brand and the micro niche are working together. They're working hand in hand to create just, Leah, just probably one of the best examples of anything in terms of the new online space that I've ever seen.
That's cool. Yeah. And some of that stuff was, I am blessed with a little bit of intuition before I understood the theory of any of this. I'm still learning so much from you on it, even now, that it kind of blows my mind. But I was blessed to have some just intuition as I created this career, and I was learning on the way. But yeah, I want people to understand that your micro niche, it's about targeting, it's about identification, and it's about it's like ad copy. Like when I know my micro niche, I really know what kind of copy to write in my ads, and what kind of emojis are going to communicate and enhance my ad copy, to be honest, right? I mean, people don't even think about that, but I know if I put a little green tree and a little bow and arrow and the little castle emoji, and then I have my headline, like that will make sense to the people in my micro niche who do follow. They're obsessed with Game of Thrones, and they read J.R. Tolkien and a whole bunch, all the other targeting things I know about my audience. it's going to make sense. So the micro niche is meant for you. Again, don't stress out about it. It's just going to help you clarify your brand, as we teach in our academy and in past episodes. It's like owning a word. So like I have, in a way, kind of become like owning. There's not a lot of Celtic fantasy artists out there with a combined metal. So I'm trying to own something in the market. I'm trying to own a feeling. I'm trying to own a word. Like you always talk about like Kleenex and Band-Aids, how people refer to that as like the category when really it was like a single brand. And so I'm trying to own Celtic fantasy metal or Celtic metal. I'm trying to own that in the marketplace. So when people think of it, they think of me and they don't think of like some other band. And so it's hard to do that if you're not in a niche. It's hard. Yeah. So understanding those two things, and that, you know, branding is, you know, like you said, you call it positioning. And I love that. And like, so is there a word that you can own in when people think of you and your band in the marketplace? So even though Celtic metal is a niche, I am owning that, and that's like you said, it's working alongside of my brand. The brand is like the imagery, it's everything. It's the vibe. It's really the consistent feeling I'm trying to give my fans when I'm not around. Like when they think of me, and whatever impression comes to mind, that's the brand. And I want to give an accurate, whatever I put out there is contributing to their perception and my positioning. So I want to be purposeful with it, so it doesn't just like accidentally happen, right? I think that's the key in the academy, and what you teach in the boot camp is really being purposeful with it, identifying who you are, you know, shifting your positioning a little bit to where you want it to be, and then how can we control people's perceptions of our brand a little bit. So there's a lot of meat and potatoes to dive into there.
Yeah, there is. And like I say, you know, we could talk a lot about this. We want to give you guys the essence of what this is. In the branding bootcamp, I defined the branding to me is when you incarnate an idea. That's what branding is. So whatever the big idea is behind your music, like in Leah's case, these Celtic fantasy themes, she embodies that, which is why the imagery is so important. And the more that she can do that, the more that she can embody that. That's what incarnation means. To become something that's abstract becomes flesh. It takes on a fleshly form. You know, we know from religion, for example, Jesus would be the incarnation, right? Incarnate meaning, you know, something from heaven took a physical form here on earth that we could interact with. So you become that brand. This is what I did with my personal motivational project, being the metal motivator, metal motivation. You know, Tony Robbins meets Metallica. But I get it to where people, when they'll say, oftentimes they'll write on a post, they'll say to me, hey, I was going through a hard time, CJ, and I thought to myself, you know, I was going to react the way I normally do, but then I thought, what would CJ do? Well, who knows what CJ would do? Maybe CJ would go fly off the handle, right? But the point is that they think now, when they think of Metal Up, when they hear the phrases and they think of me. They think of the person. They think of the individual. So anybody and their grandmother can try to join the space that I'm in. They can call themselves rock and roll this, or they can say whatever they want. But all that does is build my piece of the pie even bigger, because I've already claimed that space, because I claimed that niche. I claimed it when nobody else was claiming it. And so so there's been motivational speakers around forever, plenty of them, male, female, young, old, all different kinds and sorts. But still to this day, 10 years removed, there's still only one metal motivator, you know.
You own it. You own that word.
Yep. It's just, so that's what we're talking about. And it may not be to the degree or as simplistic maybe as in Leah's case or my case, but it can still be done. It's not that complicated. And I think what she just said is so important. Relax about this. You know, yes, there's a lot to learn, but if you're doing what we're suggesting, then you're going to get a lot of great feedback from your followers. And the more intentional you are about this, and if you know, Leah, you know what's the hard part is? The hard part is trying to be objective about yourself. That's the hard part.
Yeah, it is.
You
We're
know,
so
to
close
understand.
to it.
Yeah, it is very well, and that's one of the great things about the group now. Because of, you know, the fact that we introduced the new branding aspect to the course, we didn't leave it there. We did create an option for people to schedule coaching calls to talk more about the branding, because we wanted to make it more specific to each individual person. So granted, you know, you can obviously spend a lot of time on somebody's particular case or what have you, but that takes you into a whole different, you know, now you're talking about an advertising agency and all of that. So, but all to say is that, you know, it was a great example because Leah really let me loose to work with her students one-on-one beyond the actual just one boot camp that I did. And so it just goes, I think, to show, Leah, just they understand your heart in terms of the commitment that you have to making sure that people don't fall through the cracks. We're making every opportunity we can available, from the podcast to the one-on-one calls in the elite group, everything that we can to make sure everybody fully understands these things and puts them into practice, because we've seen the results. We've seen others experience the results, and you know, there's a lot to be confused about. We're trying to clear that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just good for everyone to hear that. And just because I know we'll probably get emails about it, we're not offering one-on-one stuff outside of our programs. This is something like you need to be all in, fully committed, going through the program to, you know, have that kind of access to our coaches. So just in case you're wondering, I don't do one-on-one stuff. Our coaches don't do one-on-one stuff outside of Savvy Musician Academy. We offer all the support we can possibly give you and feedback inside of this coaching program. So, I mean, we don't want anybody falling through the cracks. And I literally spend hours in my week thinking about how can I help these people be more successful. Really, I truly do spend time. If I'm ever awake in the night, this stuff is on my mind. You know, I'm not losing sleep about it, but I am always actively thinking about is there anything missing that I could communicate better? And we literally just had a conversation in our staff meeting yesterday about, is there anything we could streamline in this elite program? Is there anything we need to take away? Is there anything we need to add? What can we do to help people get better results? You know what we actually came up with in our coaching program, we actually talk to everybody on the phone. So one of our head coaches actually calls you every few weeks, and you get check-in calls. So you're not left on your own. You don't just sign up for this thing and then you're floundering around trying to figure it out. Like, we actually call you, see how you're doing. Are you struggling? Are you hitting any walls? And one of the biggest things that we found where people aren't getting results is just a lack of, they'll fall off the wagon because of lack of accountability. So we're actually putting in more effort into calling people more often, text messaging, emailing. I mean, you're going to be attacked by us till, because that's where we found, like, people just, you can lose momentum when you're sometimes have such a steep learning curve. So I just want you guys to hear that we are really trying to help you guys. We're looking at all the different obstacles you might be having, and accountability is unbelievably effective. And so we're looking at ways we can even up our game to help you with that accountability. So just want to put that out there, that I don't know too many other companies that go to that length to call you, check in on you. How are you doing? How can we help you? What can we improve? I mean, we really want to know this stuff. So we've got thick skin. If there's something that you didn't like or you had a bad experience, we want to know about it, because we will do everything we can to fix it and help you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've talked to a number of students in the group in my sessions with them, and I always ask them questions about when they first discovered you, Leah, and when they finally decide, how long was it before they decided to join the group, and why did they join the elite program? And I could say, 99% of the answers, because they had taken some other courses and things, and they implemented those, and they've really progressed, but they're like, this is not the level I want to go to. The next level. I want to get to Leah's level. And so I said, well, what was it? What was it that was the thing that made you say, I'm going to go all in? And they said, support. That was it. It wasn't not just getting some, in the elite group, we're going to get some super secret information,
Right.
Yeah, you're going to get a whole lot more in-depth information. Absolutely you are. But what's the game changer? Support.
Yep. And we're looking to up our game on that in any way we can, because we're committed to results. I mean, that's the driving point of any business. You can't actually survive on the internet with a business these days unless you're really helping people. You will go away very, very fast if you aren't genuine and you aren't actually delivering results for people. We're still around, we're thriving, we're growing, and I'm very proud of not just the company I built, but just like the amazing people and the transformations. And yeah, it's incredible. It's what keeps me getting up every day doing this. And in case people have no idea, and you wonder, like, how much is Leah even working on her music? My schedule right now, the way we've got it laid out is 3 days a week, I'm working on my music business. The other 2 days, I'm doing coaching, I'm doing this podcasting, I'm doing content, I'm doing marketing, writing ad copy, all emails, things like that. So I'm actually working on my music business more than I am in Savvy Musician Academy at the moment. It's really tight. It's really hard to make it happen, but it's something that I told, my husband, Steve, who's a huge part of the business, and our whole company, that, listen, guys, the whole reason SMA exists is because I experiment and I'm in the trenches. I'm in the trenches with our students, and I'm learning, I'm experimenting. And I'm just a sucker for like new information and trying the latest and greatest stuff. And I've got to make sure that is always a part of what I'm doing for a number of reasons. Personally, I have to be an artist or I don't feel happy in life at all. And then also it's part of our USP, our unique selling proposition for Savvy Musician Academy. The bottom line is a lot of gurus and people out there aren't doing it. They're teaching it, but they're not doing it. And I think that I can speak with more of an authority, the fact that I am doing it and doing it well. Hey, sometimes I fail. So not every ad works. I tell you guys about it. But the fact that I'm in the trenches, I'm doing it with you, I'm reporting results, and I'm also pretty darn good at teaching it and helping people and figuring out where the holes in the bucket are. So just so you guys know, I am actively doing this stuff. I'm actively, I have to, every time I release a new album, I'm also having to think about my micro niche and the branding and positioning thing. That doesn't go away. It's not like you set it and forget it. We evolve as artists. So I just want you guys to know I am working on this more than I'm actually working on my academy. And because I want to build my music career to places, I have some big goals. So just want to throw that out there. So hopefully you can appreciate it.
No, I think that's great. I think, again, that's part of the element to why Savvy Musician Academy is as good as it is, Leah, because of what you're doing, how you've chosen to live. You didn't just stop making the music. I think I've said this before. Mm-hmm. And, you had a couple of successful albums and then you're just devoting yourself to this because this is more profitable or something like that. No, you're very much in the trenches on every front. Yeah. From recording, from marketing, from self-education and all of the above, always pushing the boundaries. There's a lot of stuff that, we've talked about offline that she's considering and doing she's never mentioned here. So I can tell you it's even more than you're hearing. But that's what creates greatness. And I think, for people to, if you really want to experience something, at a higher level, you got to get around people that think like that. You got to get around people that have that next level kind of attitude. And that's part of the Savvy Musician Academy. It's one of the great things I love being in that elite group is because I'm surrounded with very serious people who have skin in the game. Financially, they have skin in the game. Yep. So it's not an inexpensive thing, but the results are going to so far exceed anything that they are investing in right now. It's mind-boggling, but you got to take that step. You got to be fearless. You have one life to live. There is no do-over. You will not be able to come and do this over again. And the clock is ticking. You won't come back as a
cow or a plant. Sorry.
No, and the clock is ticking on the only life that you've got. So, Leah, let's leave them with a simple action step. What can they do today?
Yeah, I want to encourage you guys. I got a little exercise for you to help you with your branding. This is not a micro niche exercise, it's a little branding exercise. I want you to post a photo that represents you or your music. Most of the time it'll be a selfie, but it could be, a nice image from a photo session. And I want you to post it on Instagram, do it on Facebook, wherever your fans are. And I want you to tell them, hey guys, in one word, describe what comes to mind when you think about me or you hear my music. And then pay attention to what they tell you. It will be so revealing, and you're going to get all kinds of ideas, and you'll be shocked and you'll be surprised. And some of them will be like, yeah, that's obvious. And this is just a powerful exercise to show you what your current positioning is. And it might also reveal ways in which you might want to shift it or tweak it a little bit as you go through this. So that's the, kind of a freebie exercise that you can go through. Outside of that, if you want more in-depth coaching and training, accountability, like we talked about, I want you to go to callsma.com, and one of us are going to speak with you on the phone and actually help you figure out where you're at and where you need to go. That's callsma.com, and we would love to talk to you.
That's so awesome. Well, guys, once again, please be sure to rate and review this show. Give it stars on Spotify, Stitcher, and iTunes, and Google Play, and help us raise up in the ranks and leave a sweet comment about how much this show is impacting your life, because I know it is. How could it not? It has to be the most information-packed music marketing podcast out there. I've heard a few of them, and I haven't seen anything that touches this. And I know that sounds like bragging, but I'm late to the game. Like I said, we're 51 episodes in now. And I wasn't on all 51 of those, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, if you leave us a really nice review, send us a screenshot of it and email it to success@savvymusicianacademy.com, and you will be put into a draw for a prize. So send us that screenshot.
Awesome. Leah, thank you once again.
Thanks, and we'll see you guys next time.
This episode was sponsored by the Superfan System Elite program here at Savvy Musician Academy. If you are looking to scale your existing music business and you're looking to get into advanced digital marketing, such as email marketing, funnels, e-commerce, Facebook ads, and more, and you're looking to build a real profitable online music business, book a call with our team at www.callsma.com. We would love to speak with you for about 30 minutes and see how we can help you. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more episodes, and we'll see you next time.